Welcome to another episode of Southern Ohio Matters with host Gina Collinsworth. Gina Collinsworth is a Public Information Coordinator with the Ohio Valley Regional Development Commission in Waverly, Ohio. We're going to be talking about active transportation, internships at the Ohio Valley Regional Development Commission, and tourism, so stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of Southern Ohio Matters with host Gina Collinsworth. Gina is the Public Information Coordinator with the Ohio Valley Regional Development Commission in Waverly, Ohio. And it's always a pleasure, Gina, talking with you because you bring such a wealth of knowledge and information that our listening viewers need to know.
Thanks, Patrick. It's great to be back here with you and all of your team at the Ohio State University South Centers for the community. And our show is just one of the shows that you produce. And every week you're pushing out a lot of great information about our region. And that's why we're here today.
And you're going to be talking about active transportation. You're going to be talking about an intern, and you're going to be talking about tourism. And I think these are really three great topics that we can sort of mull over as we're looking at the future.
That sounds good to me. And I also have lined up some very special guests today, Patrick. So I'm thankful to be here and thankful for all your viewers out there who want to learn more about Southern Ohio, which in our opinion is the most beautiful place on earth, right?
I think so. You got my vote.
All right. Well, I want to welcome to the show our first guest today. It's actually one of my coworkers. Jacob Taylor is here. Jacob works at the Ohio Valley Regional Development Commission in the planning department. And also he does a lot of great work with mapping and, as you might guess, active transportation, Patrick. So let's welcome Jacob to the show. How are you, Jacob? Great to see you.
Pretty good. It's good to see you, Gina. Good to be back in the office somewhat.
It is great. You know, since I took a couple months off for Southern Ohio Matters, and since we're back today, we're both here at the office. It's great to be back at the office and to know that things are getting under control in our communities and things are starting to open up again. There's a lot of activity around our office and a lot of work that we've all been doing. But tell us a little bit, Jacob, about your work here at OVRDC.
A lot of my work has to do with working with data and working with making maps for people, for our member agencies and communities. So the day-to-day varies a lot, but one of the things we've been working on a lot recently and just finished a large plan on what has been transportation. And a big part of that is active transportation.
I have to ask you on behalf of our viewers out there, what does that actually mean? You know, Jacob, in our world, there are a lot of terms and a lot of acronyms, but in the real world, you know, people don't really understand. And I know that a lot of our viewers are saying, what is active transportation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely felt that way myself when I first started hearing about it. Active transportation simply means transportation that is powered by people and not by motors or something else.
That sounds like a good definition. What are some examples of active transportation?
Well, some common examples are bike routes, biking, walking. There's a lot of other kind of weird ones, you know, that fit into that, like skateboards and scooters and stuff. And we've occasionally had people come out and ask about riding horses, which I'm not so sure fits in, but, you know.
I guess one of the other things that we talk about when we talk about active transportation are some of our partners like the Ohio Department of Transportation. And I know that you work with ODOT sometimes on projects. So what have been some of the recent projects for your office, your department?
We worked on some projects with Ohio Department of Transportation, such as active transportation plans for Scioto and Ross County. They're looking into starting some other active transportation plans, and We're hoping that those will go through. We'd like to see a lot of our member counties have an active transportation plan, since having those plans in place will help direct development of that infrastructure, which everyone uses at some point or another. Sometimes it's as simple as being in the downtown and walking from store to store. And sometimes it's as vital as having to bike to a workplace.
Can I just take a second to say to our viewers out there, if you happen to see any information about active transportation plans and participating, please get involved, because as Jacob will tell you, if we don't have your advice or your thoughts or ideas about what it's like for you and your community as far as transportation goes, then how would we know how to improve it? So I think one of the hurdles on these active transportation plans, when we do our public information sessions, it's so great to have people who give us their thoughts, isn't it, Jacob?
Yeah, and the input that the public gives is really vital to these plans, and they really affect how the plans are developed. The input of everyone is often taken into consideration in these plans, which is, I'm sure we're all aware of, not always the case when it comes to these sort of planning documentation.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about active transportation, and maybe you can share with us, what are complete streets, Jacob?
There are a lot of examples. Complete streets are one, bike paths are another, sidewalks are one, and bike lanes, because complete streets is in a way taking into consideration all of those. The street is the main part of infrastructure in just about everywhere in the United States. Surrounding that vital infrastructure are these supplementary kind of paths and routes. And to build a complete street, you're taking into consideration all modes of transportation, so that someone can take a bike down the street as easily as a car or a bus.
When we talk about some of the projects that we work with through ODOT and others, because we partner up, I want to mention later in the show, if everyone sticks around, we're going to be talking about tourism just briefly. And there's a project in Scioto County that actually has some information to talk about as far as active transportation, and a grant award that they were funded with, and now they're moving forward on construction. So I just wanted to say that, so everyone will stick around to hear more about that. And that kind of gives you an idea of what Jacob is talking about, some of these projects that we work on and the plans. Jacob, I know in your work we're talking about roadways and active transportation paths, bike paths and everything, but when you talk about roadways, you have to talk about sidewalks. So do sidewalks come into this planning?
Yes, sidewalks are an important part of any sort of street. I think that's, pretty acceptable. And one thing OVRDC is working on in that realm is sidewalk inventory. The sidewalk inventory that OVRDC is working on is for our scope, which is all 12 member counties. It's a pretty huge undertaking, and has been ongoing for a while. The project's coming along pretty well, and it's given us a good idea of where sidewalks are and where they're not, and where they could be improved. And it'll hopefully be useful in future plans and future construction.
I think with the emphasis today on getting more exercise and being more active, and a lot of communities are planning projects to try to encourage that, it looks like sidewalks it's a no-brainer. I know if you're not from Southern Ohio, or if you don't live in a rural area, you probably can't imagine, but there aren't a lot of sidewalks around. Is that what you're finding as you go out and map the sidewalks for our 12 member counties?
This sidewalk inventory project has been undertaken over the last month and a half or so by our intern, Collin Finn. And so I will push that over to him and let him give you his answer.
Jacob, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to share what we do here at OVRDC with our listeners and our viewers. And it's always our goal here to be as transparent as we can and connected to the community. Sometimes our work is not as exciting, but we like it, don't we? It's exciting for us.
Thank you, Gina. I appreciate getting the chance to talk.
Thank you, Jacob. Patrick, we have another guest with us today. In fact, we're going to talk with our OVRDC summer intern. Collin Finn is our intern. We've been very lucky to be affiliated with the Scioto Foundation and their UCAN internship program. So it's such a great program. They actually match sites, which OVRDC is one of the internship sites, with these outstanding regional college students in our area. And also, I believe, maybe even high school seniors. I'm not sure. Maybe Collin can help clarify that point. But the great thing is it's getting our youth who are actually learning about different systems and learning different majors at their college, but they get to come and put that to work for the community and for the region. So
I very much agree with you. The interns really need the experience that you're able to provide to them.
yeah, this is our first year being part of Scioto Foundation's UCAN internship program. So we definitely are. I believe Jacob is very positive about maybe continuing that next year. And I know that program will continue to grow in our area because just to get that kind of experience and that on-the-job training, I think could really make a difference, for our college students before they graduate and have to go to work and get a real job like we have. So with that said, I want to welcome to the show Collin Finn and just let everybody meet Collin. He's an outstanding student at the Miami of Ohio University. Hi, Collin. How are you today?
Hello, pretty good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for taking time. I see behind you, you have a giant plotter and
Yeah.
know that you are working with Jacob in our mapping and planning division of the OVRDC. So tell us, Collin, a little bit about your college experience and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am a rising senior at Miami University, which means I just wrapped up my junior year and I'll be starting my senior year this fall, majoring in political science. So I'm really interested in a lot of the things our government's doing to address the issues we face as a region here in Appalachian, Ohio. And it's really been one of the things I've been interested in ever since I got interested in politics, because to me, it's just more interesting to see how you can make a tangible difference in your community rather than, maybe planting seeds that you might not get to see grow to their full potential at a larger scale. So I'm really interested in what folks do here at the local level and at a regional level to make our community better. And so I happened to apply for the Scioto Foundation internship program, UCAN internship program this year, which is for rising juniors or rising seniors, I believe. In college, students who are from the area but can attend really any university. We've got students from Miami University, Vanderbilt University, Ohio State, all over really, and they're placed with different, nonprofits or governmental organizations here in the region that really match their interests. So, for example, there was a gentleman that was interested in education, so he got placed with the South Central Ohio Educational Service Center. But as someone that's really interested in the issues that we face as a region and really interested in economic development in particular, I was really happy to get placed with the Ohio Valley Regional Development Commission. And my 5-week experience was a really awesome experience for me. I really enjoyed it. And it actually ended up evolving into I'll be here for the rest of the summer, a couple days a week.
Our executive director, John Hemmings, was so impressed, Collin, and he really liked having you around, and you've done such great work here. And so he wanted to see if you could stay. So you'll be here through August, and then you'll be back to Miami working on your senior year. And then do you have plans for law school later?
Yeah. So like you said, I'll be graduating this spring. And then the plan is to go to law school after that. So I'm currently studying for the LSAT, taking that in August, not next month. And then, I'll apply for law school in the fall, and hopefully I'll know where I'll be, living for the next 3 years by sometime in the spring, which is kind of weird to think about. I don't know where I'll be this time next year, but, it really is true. I have no idea. But I plan on staying here in the state of Ohio because I think we have a lot of really good law schools here that I would like to go to. And we'll see what happens after that.
Well, it's been a great experience to have you here, and I want to congratulate you on being a finalist in the Harry Truman Scholarship Search. And, that's very prestigious, Collin. You've worked very hard. I know you were an Eagle Scout and valedictorian at Portsmouth High School. Is that correct?
Yep, all those things are true.
I mean, you're just outstanding. What can I say? We have really enjoyed having you here at the office, and some of the work that you're welcome. Some of the work you've been doing with Jacob includes some mapping, which we've been pushing out on social media on our Facebook page. And I'd like to take this chance to say, if you haven't yet, please go to the OVRDC Facebook page and like it and follow, because a lot of the information that comes through the office, we actually share on Facebook, as you might think. So some of the maps that we've been sharing, people love maps. So in your internship, Collin, what have you been working on with Jacob?
Lots of different things, but I think the most relevant, map that I've been working on has been the sidewalk map for our region. Our 12 county region, each of the counties has different population centers that have roads which have sidewalks, and it's pretty interesting to consider, where those sidewalks are. And it's interesting for us to know where those sidewalks are, because we have, they're really existing infrastructure that we can use to leverage other projects that we have going on, whether that be tourism or something else. It's just a valuable asset to have the knowledge of where those exist in relation to one another. And so I started off with Adams County. It was the first county that I did. Went on to Brown, and I did Lawrence, and then I'm currently working on Gallia. So I've done 4 counties, I believe. Yeah, 4 counties. And if you looked at like a land use map, that shows where all the population centers are, where people live, where all the developments are, rather than just vegetation or farmland necessarily. That would pretty much line up with where most of the sidewalks are. But every once in a while, you'll find just a random sidewalk on some country road where somebody just decided to, build a sidewalk for some reason or another, because sidewalks, are private property in most cases here in the state of Ohio. And, it's just interesting. Every once in a while, you'll find an apartment complex that pops up in the middle of Adams County. And there's some sidewalk there. So it's really interesting just to see where those exist. And it's useful for us to know.
Very helpful with planning, as far as what we do here is to actually document what is existing, so you can either prove the need for more or show that there is an overlap, So I know that's a big part of what we do. You and Jacob have been working on different things. And have you been out in the field any while you've been here at OVRDC?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to visit the Paint Creek Bike Trail, which runs from just about, like Washington Courthouse to Chillicothe, I believe. And we have some trail counters on that bike trail, so that we can get a good number of, the amount of people who frequent that trail on a daily basis. And so, we were having some issues with a few of the trail counters. Just they need to be maintained. They need to have the bugs taken out of them. We need to collect the data so that we can upload that to our system, and make sure that the data is clean and being collected, and it's not catching trees, that are blowing in the wind or something like that. So we got to go out and do that. And we have 3 trail counters set up. One towards Washington Courthouse, one about halfway between Washington Courthouse and Chillicothe, and then another one in the city of Chillicothe. And it was kind of cool just to see the bike trail. I didn't actually know much about the bike trail until this experience. It was actually built on top of an old railroad. And it's just a really cool scenic trail. And actually, since doing that, I've actually talked with some friends about maybe biking that trail, because I think it'd be a neat experience. I'm more of a hiker. I love the outdoors and that kind of stuff. But I thought if I ever decide to give biking a try, I think that's probably where I'd start, is on the Paint Creek Bike Trail. It's just a really cool asset for the region, really.
It is.
And, it's awesome.
It's surprising, isn't it, Collin, how tourism can revolve around those kinds of natural assets that you wouldn't necessarily, it's not necessarily development. It is in a very small scale, but you want to preserve that nature so people can get out there and enjoy it. So it sounds exciting. It makes me wonder, the next question for you is, what have you found most interesting about your work here at OVRDC?
There's been a lot of really interesting parts of it. So I don't know what I would say is the most interesting, but I'll change your question a little bit. Maybe say the most enlightening part of it for me, and something that I'll take away, is learning how to use some of the GIS software. That has been something, it wasn't something that I expected that I would ever do, but when I came to the internship and learned how to use the software and played around with it, I've really found that to be a really valuable tool. And to be able to visualize a lot of the data we have about the region is helpful in helping us to understand what it means. and how it can be used to leverage, existing infrastructure and, demographic changes and things of that nature, to make our community a better place. And I think that's what that's what OVRDC is all about. And, just the ability to use the software and use the tools we have to create this data visualization to help others has been probably the most rewarding experience, I would say.
And I agree with you, Gina, why it's so important how you want that money to be used.
You are so right, Patrick, because that's your tax dollars at work. So, it's really great if you'll give your feedback so we can do the best with that money, do the best use for the community as you wish. So the public feedback is very important. And I think, Collin, have you had a chance to experience any of our public forums while you've been here? I don't know if you have.
I have somewhat. Our meetings are, our executive committee meetings are open to the public, and sometimes you'll have folks come in to talk, and we have a lot of community partners that'll come in and talk with us. So I've had some experience with that there with our INRAC committee, as in particular. But I think you, Gina, you do an excellent job with the social media, especially. I think you've already talked about it a little bit, but the engagement we get, especially with going back to the maps really get a lot of engagement because they really visualize not only the problems, but also a lot of the assets and really awesome things about our region. You're posting those, and a lot of the other things we do at OVRDC has led to more, civic engagement on that front. And I think you deserve credit for that. And you do an excellent job with that.
Thank you, Collin. Thank you so much, too, for being here today on the show. And
absolutely.
We call it good news you can use. So
for sure. Yeah.
Good news you can use. And Collin, I'll let you get on with your day. And I'll say to Patrick, we've talked a lot about active transportation, and we've talked about bike trails. And, tourism is a big part of our regional economic positive stories, I guess you can talk about. So the one thing I wanted to talk about in the last part of our show is summertime travel.
And I know Southern Ohio has so many different things to see.
Absolutely. I want to tell you about one thing that you can't see this summer. So the Portsmouth murals, which are, I want to say, world famous, and it's my hometown, so they're amazing. And there's been such a great group of people that have pushed those murals for the last 20 years into existence, and it's just an amazing project. But it's good news. It's a good reason. ODOT has released information, and I know there's a project going on where funding has been awarded. So they are working on a new bike path on Front Street. So in order to preserve the murals so they won't be disturbed while they're working on Front Street in Portsmouth, they're going to be covering the murals this summer. So there are still murals in our town that you can see. It's just not going to be that big, long stretch. So I wanted to definitely mention that to our viewers. The other thing I wanted to do is, if you want to get out and about, there's a lot of great tourism and travel information on Ohio Find It Here, which is www.ohio.gov. So lots of great information there if you're ready for a road trip. And last but not least, are you ready for my shout out? Today, we are shouting out to the Lawrence County Gateway Group because they've been working on a project that is opening up in a couple of days, and it's the new Marriott Hotel in downtown Ironton, Ohio. It looks fabulous. I know they have a pool and beautiful rooms and great food nearby. So if you're out on the road and you need a place to stay, stop for the first time at the new Marriott in downtown Ironton, Ohio. So shout out to the Lawrence County Gateway Group and all the people that are responsible for the good things happening in Ironton and Lawrence County, because it's a great area and lots of exciting things are happening. Patrick, I think that's going to wrap it up for this show. Well,
I really appreciate you're bringing Jacob and Collin on, talking about the different things that are going on. I know that you, as a Public Information Coordinator with the Ohio Valley Regional Development Commission, really plays a significant part in letting people see such a wonderful group of communities that we have.
Life was meant for good friends and great adventures. So I hope that you get out there this summer, Patrick, and I'll see you next month.
Thank you, Gina.